Hello, hello, hello. My name is Craig Smith, and we're going to talk about Fey Runners today. It is a solo RPG, which means you don't need a GM. You get to play it by yourself, and it's a upcoming game that I'm working on. At least at the time of this recording, it's not quite out yet. It's a game focused on hacking and what that means for you and your characters. This is an RPG that you can play completely by itself or attached onto another game. In particular, this game is based on IronSworn. So those of you who are not familiar with IronSworn, it's also a solo RPG game by Sean Tompkins. It's a fantastic game. They have different variations. So you have medieval style, you have like Starforged, which is space and sci-fi, and there's Sunder's Isle, which is coming out, which is pirate themed. For the most part, Fey Runners can be played by itself, or it can be played in addition as an expansion to one of those other ones. Although I imagine the only one it would make a lot of sense for would be the Starforge, the sci-fi type thing. This particular session 0, I'm not going to go into all the details of how IronSworn works or some of the mechanics that are specific to IronSworn. I will talk about the ones that are kind of a generic one that we'll use on just the basics. For really detailed, like a podcast on how IronSworn works and some good actual plays, I really recommend The Bad Spot. That's a fantastic podcast you can find. I won't go into nearly as much detail or do nearly as much justice as they do. And so for this one, this is just to kind of give you a sense for how Fey Runners plays out and how it works. And being a session 0, all we're going to really cover today is the world itself, how it works, so what's called the truce, and also build out the character that we're going to use for a later session 1. So a little bit more about me. My name is Craig Smith. I am a professional hacker, and I'm also a person who truly loves solo RPGs. Huge fan of IronSworn, obviously. And I've been hacking for about 30 years in all different areas of the computer security community. I wrote things such as the Car Hacker's Handbook and have given many talks. And I wrote this game. Now, this game isn't really meant to be based on reality. It's definitely a fictional game. It's meant more for like the way you would see hacking portrayed in movies. Well, I do plan on making a little compendium that talks about real world hacking and real world culture and how you can apply it to the game if you so choose. Feel free to pick and choose which piece of that you find interesting or none of it. It won't matter. It won't actually affect how the game goes. You don't need to know anything about security or hacking to play this game. And to be honest, you're not going to learn how to hack this game. That's not the intentions of this game. And to be clear, what I'm not is I'm not a podcaster. I'm not a streamer. So this is, I apologize. Probably not the best thing to listen to, but it will give you a good idea hopefully give you a good idea as to how to play this game and what you could expect from this type of game. So Fey Runners is a game specifically about the online world. Whatever that is for you, it's going to be different for different people, and we'll go through the truths to determine what your world is like. But you can picture this as usually typically in the future, like a Ready Player One VR space, or maybe you're living in a simulation like in the Matrix. Those are the types of worlds you're going to be in, and your character for this, they're called Fey Runners, the actual hackers in this, they live in this world. They've been there for years. This is where, they go and they progress and they have their own agendas and, their own community as within this network. They may have their own real world agendas as well. And if you're using this as an expansion, say to Starforge, then, you may have your goals there, but you're going to have a different character sheet for when you've logged on to the network and with their own agendas and stuff there. So they may be doing something for the world of Starforge, but they may run into people that they really only deal with in the online community. One of the reasons I wrote this is because in many games, when you deal with hacking, while it seems kind of fun, they're typically just mini games. It's just a piece where, at best, you just have some simple roles that kind of say, oh, did you break in? Did you not? We've seen some attempts to kind of dig into this a little bit more. But it's fair not to have a whole lot of emphasis on the hacking piece because normally you have a group or a party that is, doing something. There's usually just one member who may be a hacker and they have to go and infiltrate and do a thing. So they keep that short. So you never really get to explore like this online world. But being that IronSworn type rules and this particular game is a solo RPG, it allows you to just take that extra time to deep dive in and have these extra pieces because you're not really holding anybody back. Uh, Perhaps if there's a co-op version, but as a solo, which is mainly geared towards, it does have some rules for playing this co-op, but both people would have to be online. Uh, this will allow you to really just kind of build out this world, and it has a whole bunch of rules for just creating things like viruses and whatnot. And we're going to go into some of those, but that's really the focus of Fey Runners. Okay, now with all that out of the way, let's get started. There are some pieces that we have to figure out that's specific to our world, and they're called the truths. And that's true of any IronSworn type game. You have your truths, but there's also pieces that are just kind of universal in the world of Fey Runners, and certain terms that we have to kind of go over. So, for instance, everybody has a rig. Now, this rig could be different things. It typically represents the computer system you use to jack into the network. And depending on your world, this could be like a VR headset. This could be like a giant gaming rig. This could be, a cybernetic you pull out of your wrist and plug in. And there's even a table for making a random one if you don't care and you just want to figure out what it is. And you can also be a section where, or not section, a world where they have different ways of jacking into your network. And so it's up to you. There could be one way to do it. It could be like a spinal thing where everybody has to do it that way to get into the simulation, or there could be other ways. Alternate versions would also be supported. And then we also have an idea of a network segment. Everybody kind of lives in this core segment. And so the core segment is where you first start when you jack in, and that's where all your core, common, commercial things are for, like where society kind of hangs out and whatnot. And then there's another segment called the corporate network, the corp net, and that one is where your businesses reside. And so that will typically be, the back end stores, the, could be, financial institutions, things of that nature. And then there's a segment beyond that. It's called the government segment. This is the GovNet. And this is where you'd have more of your kind of military and whatnot. In this world, for the most part, corporations have all the keys for all the money, and really the only thing that's left for the governments is more of the politics, some territorial dispute type stuff. They do the enforcement. That's all done by the government sector, and that's in the GovNet. And then you have your underground network, and this is the darknet. And so the way this is laid out is you have to kind of travel from core all the way to the darknet if that's as far as you want to go. And as you pass through these segments, you do have to infiltrate each segment. And once you're in a segment, you can kind of branch out from within that segment to attack other things that would live in that area. You still have to breach each individual's system within that segment, but then you'll have to travel again if you want to go to government. And this represents more relays, more bounces that you have to kind of set up to cover your tracks when traveling to something that's more, say, difficult to kind of maneuver and not be traced from. And so that's laid out this way. So you can't go right from core and just jump into the underground network. You'd have to kind of go through corporate, then bounce to the government, and then you can get into the government network. And in this session, I'm not going to go into all the details of how you break into the different segments, how you explore systems. They have a pretty large mechanic for that, with lots of different roll tables and stuff, so you can kind of really get the feeling of what you're running into, and when you're exploring these systems and looking for things. That'll be covered a lot more in session 1. For this one, we're just going to go through like what does our world look like and how does it work. Now, the other thing that is an optional thing you can do is there's a thing called a sentient AI. And sentient AI is basically the ghost in the shell kind of concept. You have an AI that has become self-aware, it is rogue, and it just kind of is everywhere and nowhere all at the same time. And if you choose to use this mechanic, it works similar to Sundered Isle's Curse Die, except it doesn't come up quite as often. It's really just used for when you are exploring a system, when you've actually like broken into a system and you're going through it, or you're doing like a combat encounter. For those, you'll have an extra D10 that you would roll. There's different ways you can set it, but the default would be if you roll a 10, the AI shows up, and then there are positive and negative types of consequences that the AI may do. They're pretty chaotic. There's different types of AI. Sometimes they're Like I think one shows up as like a doll, and you can roll to kind of see what kind of AI you are dealing with, what lives in your world if you decide to use one. But in general, they're chaotic, and they don't necessarily pick a side. There is one skill path that kind of lets them lean a little bit more towards you, but in general, they're just gonna mess things up for somebody. You're the person you're going against, or you. So it can add an extra dynamic and kind of fun, but it's optional. You don't necessarily have to have that one. And so with IronSworn, you always swear an iron vow. That's just part of the lore of IronSworn. It's kind of how you get your quests. You usually have a piece of iron, and that's, it's usually it's physical, but not always. And that's where you define things, and it's very important that you try and fulfill your quest. If you have to forsake it, it's not great. In the world of Fey runners, we have to do the same thing. It is tradition. And so for this case, it is called Fey. And Fey is simply, it is like, if you're familiar Bitcoin, it's kind of like that. It is a currency, the main cryptocurrency of the network, but also has a kind of a blockchain type system. It is a system that allows most of the net itself to function. Everything's kind of tied into it for validation and whatnot. And it's kind of the infrastructure, the highway of what the network is. And there are other cryptocurrencies. Some are used for more malicious use, and some are used for like secret societies and things of that nature. But the main one in this world is Fed. And when people swear an iron vow, they'll swear it on Fey. But you still call it swearing iron vow. Just from traditional history, that is what you do. And so, if you hear Fey used, it is typically about swearing an iron vow or the core cryptocurrency, and it's a little obvious which one we're referring to when we do talk about it. The other thing that is a little unique in Fey runners, we do have an artifact-like system, and it's more for certain types of programs. And so certain skill paths can develop programs. These can be things like viruses and worms and botnets and things like that. You can also, some paths can develop things that are exploitation tools, hacking tools, things of that nature. Now, your character doesn't need these tools to hack into things or to even use viruses, but they'll have to find them somewhere else if they can't develop them themselves. And so they're like specialty artifacts. Some of the other IronSworns have artifact kind of concepts, and so it's similar to that in a way. They only last so long. Usually, there's usually a lifespan to these artifacts before they wear out, and there are things you can do to kind of buff them. But in general, it's skill of using them and the ability to create them, and there's also a reverse engineering move for them as well. So that's also just across the board, regardless of truths, something that exists in the Fey Runner world. All right, so I think we have all the baseline out of the way. And what we need to do now is go through our 4 stages to kind of build out our session 0, which is going to be figure out what our truths are. And then we're going to set up some factions for the network. And then we're going to create our character and then kind of set the scene for our session 1. Okay, so for now we have to figure out the first truth, which is our net dependency, and that is how does the general population consider the network? And so I'm not going to pick one. I'm just going to roll and see how it works out. Let's see. So if I were to roll on the Oracle, what do we get? We get a 91. And a 91 is zero trust. The network was built by the military and shared with other nations. Nothing on the network can be trusted, as each faction tries to spy on and curate all forms of intelligence. The network is touted as open, but the world was built. But the world has built their tools on the system that doesn't trust them. All right. All right. So that indicates we'll probably have spies and things of that nature. Probably pretty common in our environment. And the next truth, let's see, is about previous technology. So let's roll for that. See what we get for that one. 98 for that one. All right, interesting. So 98 is the past is but a memory. Technology has gone through so many iterations that people do not know or remember old technology. Old technology is a relic and mystery when found. There is no modern support for or old storage systems, radio waves, or power adapters. Okay, let me write this down. All right, that's memory. And so this would be good because it will allow us to kind of like we could run into things like cassette tapes or things of that nature, and who knows, we might have to like figure out like, oh, what is this? How do we play this? And things that won't be available to us. And so you could have like a, maybe like a quest where you're trying to figure out some old information. All right, so the next truth we need to figure out is our modern tech. And so, what is the state of modern technology in our world? All right, let's roll that one up. And that one is an 98. All right, we're getting high rolls today. All right, current technology. Technology is largely based on existing technology of this time period. It has only advanced slightly, allowing for better direct computer interfaces and visualizations, but most of the technology is standard laptops and server systems hosting cloud computer data. Quantum technology is still in its infancy stages. Okay, so we're basically like maybe just slightly future than right now. So let's just say for this, I'm trying to think of how I want my world to be. I think we'll have like VR headsets. That'll probably be a thing. I think I want to envision um, the world and stuff as rooms. And so I think we'll do VR headsets for this world, but then won't be like stem implants or anything like that. I do think we'll have like a sensory suit. I think that'll be cool. So you can get like feel like real world stuff. It's kind of happening very kind of similar to Ready Player One. I guess that wasn't too far into the future. Um, so maybe not quite as amazing VR feels as Ready Player One, but the same kind of system. Maybe society is kind of like just junkies and they're just kind of using VR headsets, and that's just kind of how we manipulate this world. All right. So next, let's figure out what our iron vows are. Like how are they sworn today? And let's roll those dice. I really don't want a 90 again. But we got another 90. Was this like in order? We had 98, 98, now 99. All right. I'm starting to wonder if this RNG is actually accurate. I'm using the one from Streamroller. We'll see how this goes, but I guess it's fine. So for this, it's called iron frames. So most rigs, outer frames, are built with iron, either as solid metal or infused into the material. When the Fey makes a vow, they place their hand on the frame to swear the vow. Oh, interesting. Hmm. So I mean, that does fit our current tech, being that we would have a rig, like we'd have a VR system that were headsets connected to. I don't know that I want to physically touch it though, in the real world. What I think would be cool is if like maybe the VR goggles themselves have like a capacity kind of touch sensor to it, like when you're touching, maybe it uses the VR headset like when you touch it, and typically to know if you may be taking it off or something like that, to kind of signal to the system it may need to like disconnect or something. um but if you don't, if you don't take it off, you can like maybe like just like caressing it a bit. Like the other players would know. Maybe the character lights up a certain way, because it's something's about to happen, and that signifies to the people in the world that you are touching it and you are going to make them a promise. And so yeah, they could see it. It's like your avatar maybe gets a glow when you touch this capacity kind of sensor in the VR frame. Yeah, okay, I like that. Yeah, we'll do that. That's what we'll do. All right. And the next truth is digital crimes. Um, so, how software crimes viewed? All right. Let's see what we get on this one. I'm thinking we'll probably get 100. Jeez. We got. Okay, so we got a three. So, first I was like, wait, what is that? Okay, so it's a three. So, a three on digital crimes. Open source and open architectures. Society expects software to be open and people build on each other's works all the time. Digital piracy is not a thing as digital assets are considered a community resource. Digital crimes are often focused on protections of users' privacy and and currency-based thefts. Okay. All right. Well, I'm a big fan of open source, but let's see, how would that come into play here? So societies, we don't really have digital piracy. maybe it's just not as common. I imagine corporations would still have maybe they may use open source to kind of build out their software, but they would have their I don't know, maybe logos and some concept of IP probably still exists in this world, but just isn't as prevalent. Um, there is a private or piracy path, and I would say maybe if I maybe don't choose that for this world, I don't know. It may not make as much sense. But for this, I would say yeah, a lot of open source tooling. And then yeah, so I would read into this one being more about I think if we're dealing with the spy thing from earlier, like, since this was built by the government, the network, and we do think they're spies, like one of the bigger, atrocities would be, this fear of people spying on people because privacy is protected in this world. There's definitely a sense to it that you would have privacy. So I think any violation of that would be, very looked down upon. Um, I might have to think about what that would mean from a security camera system, even. Yeah, I'll put a pin in that one. It's kind of see how these other things roll out when it comes to like surveillance tech. That would be like, for security, because I think we'll have to address that. We could have cameras that like just detect motion or blur out people by default or something like that. So maybe tracing could be harder. Hmm. That's interesting. Okay, I'll think about that one a little bit more. That should be cool. All right, so got I think a couple more left. Magic. This is kind of an IronSworn, like how is magic viewed? And so ours is there like any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. This is a quote probably by somebody that I feel I've heard before. Let's see how magic is viewed. Magic is a 73. What do we got here? We live in a simulation. The world has rules and laws that cannot be broken until they are. Reality can be bent from within. The world is locked into a simulation, and with very advanced tech and insight, it is possible to bend the laws of reality in ways that shouldn't be possible. Advanced code is merely a spell incantation. Okay. Now I think this still works so far as pretty well. So, obviously this is very matrixy feel kind of truth, but in if we're thinking more like Ready Player One, write this down. This is simulation. Um, then it would be like in Ready Player One there was a world that everybody used that was made by a certain creator, and that's where all the rules come from, like the physics rules and whatnot. And so I think this could have the same kind of thing. Maybe even the government, is the one that kind of set up all these rules, and it told people like, how the world's supposed to work, and then everybody's kind of bound to them. But as hackers and whatnot are digging in, reverse engineering things, they're starting to find like exploits that not just like give you access to things, but they can also allow you to kind of bend reality a bit. Maybe giving you things that are much like spells or the ability to break some physics. I would think a lot of maybe the core rules are tied into that Fey blockchain kind of thing that locks you there, but there are there are ways to manipulate that system, and there are ways to get the computer to reinterpret code that would give you abilities that you should not be able to have in the world. um, yeah, I think that's actually really fun. Yeah, that's gonna be a good one. All right, artificial intelligence is the next one. What type of AI exists for the general population? Let's see. Let's see what we got. It will be 94. Oh, something high. Full personality. The AI is multimodal AI that can comprehend multiple types of sensor data such as audio, text, and image. Each AI has its own unique personality and comes with the rig. Oh, so you get like an assistant. Okay, got it. You can use the character personality oracle to determine what your AI is like. They can communicate and function like a normal human, but will not act out on physical tasks and are mostly used for research and bouncing ideas off of. Okay, cool. All right, so we have. I like the idea that it has its own personality. Um, so I think I might even roll as we're doing our character to figure out like what its personality is. Is it like sarcastic? Is it? I don't know, that could be fun. It'd be fun to have one that's just not like a a Siri or something. It's just there to be helpful. Like it's sometimes helpful, but sometimes it's like annoyed with you. I think would be really cool. Um, then everybody's headset would have a different one with maybe a different name, and it's like a random seed. Like everybody who gets a headset, there's just one that's just kind of intrinsically built in. And it's kind of like a random number generator thing, but it's locked in. You can't change them out. Like maybe if your headset dies, then you lose your AI. Yeah, I think you do. Yeah, I think if your rig gets destroyed and you have to get a new one, which is it's a possibility, then whatever you had, um, then it's gone. And yeah, you may, I don't know, that could be kind of crushing if you get like really close to your AI. That'd be sad. Yeah, I don't know about bonds, but hmm, okay, cool. That'll be fun. All right, so we'll do that. And then I think this is the last one. It's virus, worms, and botnets. How do non-human controlled entities work? All right, it's the last one on the oracles. Or I'm sorry, on the oracles, on the truths. And what do we got here? 20. So 20 is operator. These entities do not operate on their own, but instead are being controlled remotely by a person or a call center worth of people. These entities phone home to a central node and get their next instruction. Whoever controls the central node controls the whole fleet. If the central node is destroyed, the connected entities cease to perform and any new activities. Oh, okay. So they're kind of brain dead. So we do have a world of AI, viruses, and things like that, and botnets. They're not that smart. They're not as smart as the AI. So these basically have to phone home to some centralized crime ring or something of that nature, uh, which is um, which is interesting. I think the reason for that would be that you need this rig, right? So the rig that the VR headset's tied to needs enough power to make one of these AIs. Whereas a virus is basically just a program that runs within this, simulated world, doing, whatever it does. But it's too simple to also contain an entire AI. And so what it does, it has like a purpose or a goal. Maybe some of them actually have to check into their master servers to get their next instruction, and that becomes their goal until they either check back in or it's been updated. And yeah, and then if we can find out where they're getting their instructions from, and we kill that, then whatever this is just kind of becomes dead, just dies on the spot. All right, cool. So that's our truce. That's our world that we're going to play in for our session one. Yeah, this should be interesting. Okay, cool. The next step that we have to do is build out a few factions. Let's see here. All right, for factions, let's go ahead and clear out this list of previous roles. We don't need all those. Okay, so we need to make basically two corporate factions and two government factions. This just kind of gives you a little sense of the world. After all, your characters, they've been in this world for probably most of their lives. And so, they're going to know some. Now, they probably would know more than these two, of course, but these are maybe the top of mind. I don't know who they are yet or what they do. We're going to find that out now. And typically, you don't know any underground kind of faction yet. You want to tie those in as you start playing. But maybe we'll change up. Like if we have a certain character and we decide it makes sense for them to be part of an underground clan or something, maybe we'll figure that out. But the default is basically two corporations, two governments. Technically, you can avoid this until later if you just don't want to deal with it. But I think it can add something, can kind of give us more plot things to go after. So let's see what we got for corporation. I'm going to roll on the corporate factions oracle here and see what type we have. So we'll roll 1 to 3 times on that and get an idea what we're working with here. So let's go ahead and just roll up. First one being, what is this one? And that is a 61. So that's medical. Medical faction. All right. And then let's get another one. I think another one would be good. So the next one is a 41. A 41 is faith. Oh, interesting. Yeah, and typically in IronSworn games, religion is also one of the truths, but It's not in this one. Fey Runner, I didn't include religion as something that does or does not exist in this world. I feel it's kind of up to you, however you want to do that, and I don't know that we need a role for that, but I think for me, like this corporation, like some faith-based medical one. Um, I guess I don't know if this corporation is like a good corporation or bad corporation. I don't really want to roll again on the corporate faction, but maybe I'll roll on the theme oracle. Let me find that. All right, I will roll on theme. And theme is a 41, which is hate. Hate is the theme. Okay, so they're bad. This is a bad corporation. So that answers that question. So we have this corporation. How much hate do I want to use? Hate is a pretty strong word. Um, so they could be like a cult, or I mean, I could go with a genocide thing, but I don't think I want to do that. So let's just have one that's maybe they don't like hate a certain type of person, but maybe they don't like the poor. Maybe they're using faith, but they're corrupt. That's just kind of a guise, and they swindle a lot of people, and they turn away people who maybe don't have money or the means. So yeah, but they're a type of, I would say, hospital of some type, and or they run hospitals. That's what they do. They have a chain of hospitals, and I think I'll use we have a corporation name table as well, and so I think I will roll on that. So let me clear this list here, and then let's find the corporation names. Current page name eat. All right, let's see. There's a prefix and suffix. We'll start with the prefix. That 87. The prefix would be quantum. Yeah, I think that definitely needs a suffix. So suffix 22. Quantum network is this. This is hospital's name, or hospital chain's name, the quantum network. All right, this is the medical network that runs a bunch of hospitals, faith-based, exists in the network. Already feeling that they're an enemy of mine. I don't like them. All right, and let's do another one. Let's see. Let's pick. Yeah, and there's other things too. There's oracles for like what they're working on and their projects and that kind of stuff. But I don't want to roll those yet. I think I want to figure out what we have and build my character. And if I decide that they're tied to one of these, or I want to do one of my starting quests with one of these, then maybe I'll figure out what their project is. All right, let's figure out the next one. All right, another corporate faction. I'm gonna clear this out and roll. All right, the next one is a 67. And a 67 is a news fiction. Ah, fun. All right, so we also have a news one. I don't know that I need another faction. What type of news? I do think I'll do another theme though. That was kind of interesting, and kind of see like maybe get a feel for what kind of news they have. All right, so let's do one more oracle roll. This one's gonna be on theme, and we get a 78. Sanctuary. Sanctuary. All right. So I think what I'll do with this one, I'll interpret Sanctuary as actually like a kind of the counter to our last faction. I want them to be like a news of truth. Like this is where no matter what your beliefs are, like they don't really care. Like they only give you like the facts, and it's a sanctuary from all the typical chaos and ads and whatnot. It's just a network where you can kind of like pretty much should believe what's there. They may be missing a lot of information because they can't validate it, like they wouldn't talk about it. But yeah, it could be a good place for a news feed. And yeah, you probably wouldn't want to show up on this one if you were a bad person because everybody would believe it, kind of deal. So yeah, let's figure out what their name is. I think that's probably good enough. So the name for this one will be, let me roll on the corporate factions here. Let me clear this out. So for their name, it'll be 21. 21. Crypto. Oh, if I'm loving that. Oh, that's a fraction. Sorry, that's a crypto fraction. It's not. That's not their company names. Where's company names? 21 on company names. Nimbus. Oh, like a cloud. Okay, okay. That's a bit better. All right, Nimbus. Um, oh, actually, let's just go with that. We'll just go with Nimbus News. That's actually what this faction is. This is the Nimbus News. The Nimbus News is just they're the truthsayers. They're there to tell the people what's going on, and they really don't generally take any kind of money or anything. That would be very corrupt if they did. So it'd be very much of a news story if they did something like that. All right, so that's our corporations. Now let's do our political factions, which would be the government ones. All right, so we'll need one or two of these. I'm gonna clear this out. Let's see. Okay, 31. What kind of political group we have? Couriers. Interesting. So on the government side, we have a courier. What? We'll roll again on this and see what that looks like. 15. So 15 is diplomacy. Diplomacy. Diplomacy carriers. So it reminds me of like, back in the day where you'd have like Paul Revere kind of thing, where they have to go and carry these messages to different people. This group, maybe in a way they are kind of like the corporate news, the Nimbus news people. Like the government has a kind of neutral or like generally respected, like left out of typical politics, that is there to carry encrypted data, encrypted policies, things that maybe have to be approved or agreed upon with different factions. Kind of a neutral entity for this communication. I think that makes some sense that they would have something like that, and that's pretty cool. Um, let's see, like what would that be called? I think it needs a name. Um, hmm, I do have a political group name. I guess we'll roll on that. Political groups also have a prefix and suffix, so let's see how this comes out. So roll for the prefix. Let's see if we want a suffix. That is an 84. So the independent, and that matches. Independent what? Let's go ahead and do the suffix. 55. Independent guild. The independent guild. Oh, I actually like that a lot. All right. Independent guild. And they're the ones that carry off these, like the Pony Express, but of the crypto digital world. Um, cool. All right. I like that. I do think we need another political faction, though. That isn't enough. So let's do another one. I've lost my page. There we go. Clear this. What's the next one? 81. 81 is secrecy. All right. Definitely gonna be rolling that again. So, or not again, but in addition. So, addition 81, we get an 86, which is. Am I reading this right? Yeah. So we have both secrecy and spies. All right. Well, pretty much know what they do. So we have a group of spies, which ties into our truth that they're these are probably the people who run the spy network that everything's built on. That the people are worried about is this group. Um, And it's by one of many factions that are spies. So, like, what else? Let's say since they're just one of them, let's maybe give them a faction name too. I'm trying to think if I want to do a political group name or if I want to do a theme name. I kind of feel a theme name might be more interesting. Let's see here. So if I were to do a theme, let's just see what it looks like. And I can always change my mind. All right, so we're gonna roll, I think, again on themes. All right, a 96 on theme. Warning. Warning. Hmm. Let's do a theme and a focus. So warning and the focus being 91. 91 is transport. Okay. So for our themes, we got a focus and transportation is how I'm reading this. Okay, so this particular group, um, this could be communication transportation. This could be like vehicles. I guess I haven't really decided how people get around the space if they, have like vehicles or they teleport. There's a VR like thing. But I do think you transfer between servers as you work through your segments. They're still interconnected. They may be represented as like bubbles or sectors, depending of like, maybe one server runs a certain sector or like a couple blocks, whereas another maybe like, could be like a separate little world entity. It probably depends on how big the servers are that are running things. Um, but to get to them, I don't think like virtual cars really is something I don't know. I think I want them on occasion, but I don't think it would be something you'd have a whole group dedicated to spying on. I just don't think it makes that much sense. So I think this would be a communication transportation, like transporting packets, and maybe they're even trying to spy on this on the independent guild. Um, yeah, that could be what they're doing. So they focus on maybe how that's getting around. So they're kind of the enemy to the independent guild a bit. I don't think they would attack them or anything like that, but they do at least want to know like maybe who's talking to who. They wouldn't necessarily attack the independent guild, but they want to know those kinds of things. And then maybe once they see that you were visited by the independent guild, they'll dig more into you. Um, I don't have a name for them yet, but being that they're spies, I don't know that I will. I think I'll maybe just add that later. So we just have this. We just know there's a spy network, and they care a lot about, the independent guild. Um, yeah, communication, tech, transportation. All right, I think that's enough. I think that's enough for the factions for now. We have a little bit now of kind of what this world's starting to look like, and so that's feeling pretty good about that. So now the next step is really just our character. Okay, for building the character, you have these things called like skill paths, and they're just called paths for this one. And what you need to do is, you need to pick two, and that's going to define your character. So if you have an idea what character you want, you would just kind of look through and take two, and then you can get one more, which will probably be like a companion or something for your rig. Uh, and so I love random. So there's also a table for creating your own or having it create one for you using oracles. So that's the route I'm going to go to figure out like what kind of character I'm playing. But of course, I reserve the rule to or the right to just change it or pick something that's near it instead if I don't like it or maybe it doesn't fit my troops. Then I won't take that one. So okay, let's roll both our paths on the oracle. And so we have a 23. That would make this a cryptologist. Okay, I'm fine with cryptologist, so they're in the crypto, sure. And then a 33, which is, let me see here. 33 is a gamer. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I will tell you what these two are once I drop this down. Okay. So for a cryptologist, what you have is they get, by default, when using a move involving deciphering encrypted content, they can add +1. On a strong hit, also take +1 momentum. Some of the other things they have is when they infiltrate a segment, they can utilize their knowledge of weak cryptography to reroll one of the challenge dice. And they can, well, potentially can if you upgrade your skills. When reversing an artifact that utilizes encryption, they may roll on supply instead in order to break the encryption without locating the key itself. Okay, so that's what the crypto would give me. And then for gamer, the way gamers work in this one, they're kind of the battlers. So I had to pick an initial skill. So right now these are kind of in three categories. This may change a little bit in the final version, but if you pick first person shooter, FPS, then you can add one when dealing with range combat. If you pick RPG, you can add one when you are armed in melee combat. And if you're good at fighting, like a fighter game, you can add +1 when brawling. And on a strong hit, you can take extra momentum. So the gamer skill, basically you can be all of these eventually. You could upgrade each one of your thing, but by default you only get one that you're good at. This is your main game you play, and because you're in this like virtual reality world, um, you would be using these gaming skills in actual combat. So I have to decide. So for this character, I think I will make them good at first person shooting. Like that'll be their thing. So they'll be good at like range weapon type of stuff. So I'm gonna make a note that they are good at FPS. And for their crypto skill, I have to pick one of those. I think I'll just take the default. When using a move involving deciphering encrypted content, add +1 on a strong hit. Also take one of them. So I'm just better at deciphering things and crypto type stuff. I'd make this character also like aware of cryptography in general. Like they understand, the Fey blockchain and stuff like that better than the average person. So that's cool. We'll go with that. All right. So next up, we got to come up with a name for our character. Um, I don't know what the name should be, but this is a handle. So this is gonna be their online name. And I have a table for this for running into them, different like Fey runners, and I think I'll use that for just getting an idea for what this name should be. And so I'm gonna roll on this at least once. Let's see here. So for that, roll, and 48 would be panic. Should I roll another one? Yeah, I think another one. So panic is the first person's first name, and that's what the second will be. 34. 34. Ghost. Crypto gamer. I kind of like that. Panic Ghost. Ghost Panic. Let me think. Maybe. I think I like Ghost Panic. I think I'm gonna switch those two. So it'll be Ghost Panic. Will be this character. Ghost Panic. That's pretty cool. I'll make the one, the I in Panic a 1, as you would. And I think I'll make the O and Ghost a 0. Yeah, there we go. So Ghost Panic is their online name. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. All right, cool, cool, cool. And so now we got to figure out what their backstory is going to be. So I'm gonna roll on the character goals table to kind of see, like, what drives them. And let's see, it is a 39. So 39 is gain riches. Okay, money. That's what they want. So I think in their life, their crypto maybe around, cryptocurrency type stuff. They want money. Money drives them. So that's pretty easy. All right, so now we have that. Now we got to divide up our stats. Clear this table. All right, so we have edge, heart, iron, shadow, and wits. Real quickly, edge is basically speed. Heart is basically, communicating with other humans. Iron is like, front physical, kind of stuff, like your brawn. Shadow is using deception, and then wits is intelligence. Let's see here. I think because it's a first person shooter, they have to at least have a 2 in that. Oh, and for those who don't know IronSworn, the way this works is you give one stat a 3, two stats a 2, and then two stats a 1. So I don't know the main one for this person yet, but I think it might be wits actually. Never mind. So I think I'll give them wits. I think cryptography makes sense that they're going to be, into math and stuff. So we'll give them that. And then edge is what you use for first person shooting. So I'll give him a 2 in that. Or yeah, I guess I decided the pronoun of this one. It's probably this is a male. Um, and then feeling that could be anything, but that's all I'm gonna pick. Um, For some reason, I don't think they're very good with people. I don't know why. I don't really want to troll though. Hmm. Let's see. I mean, it doesn't matter a ton. Uh, Actually, no. I'm gonna make them okay with people. I think I'd rather be a little better. So I'll put two in heart and then one on iron, one in shadow. Um, yeah, yeah. I think that makes some sense. I don't think they're super deceptive. And maybe at least in the current gaming career, they're not really good at the fighter type stuff. So maybe they can do some decent communication type stuff. We'll give them that. I think that makes some sense. And then we need a backstory, which is like your origin story. What brought you here to this moment? I'm gonna roll on that table too. That's just what I enjoy doing. So let's see. This one is a 28. So, witness the brutality of the government enforcers vowed to fight back. Okay. All right. So, I think this goes with general society type stuff. I don't think this guy is very fringe. I think, the government's obviously a bunch of spies and society really, likes their privacy. And so I think he's kind of decided, maybe, he's I'll write down anti-government spy. He is trying to be a crusader to kind of help out. And I don't know that he's necessarily all that great at it yet. The spy world isn't really his world, but he does know cryptography, and that gives him a little bit of a leg up. And he definitely believes in the right to privacy, and I think maybe he even has his own crypto he's kind of like been toying around with. It's just like a more anonymous version of Faye that maybe for now he just uses like on an occasion. Maybe it's not developed yet, but like that'd be something he'd be interested in. And so yeah, I think his main enemy though is the government entities. Maybe in particular, maybe he really doesn't. He knows about this transportation um, spy ring kind of thing, and so he does not like them, and I think that makes sense. And so I think um, actually with that, I think what I might do is I might see a common project, but I think we'll wait on that one for a second. But like, I think that might be where they're going to go. Yeah, I think what we have to do next is we do have a section where we kind of know some like sites, some server type things. And so this is kind of our network of known things. It kind of goes with the factions. And they're not necessarily the factions knows, but they could be. And we're just going to kind of know some places. There's just some things that our character just knows. And so to do that, you basically, well, I do it always randomly. So I use the node discovery oracle. So it's going to be, you're going to roll for your segment and then what type of segment it is, and then kind of how big it is and that kind of stuff. So let's start doing that. So first we got to figure out what segment we're in. So let me clear this out and then roll. Okay, so the first node is in 10, which is the core segment. All right, it's in the core. So that's nice. We don't have to like, really try that hard to get to this one. What type of node is it? It is 19. It is a commerce node. All right. And then let's see, how popular is this node? This node is 44. It is dozens of people are typically on this node at any given time. All right. And then I think finally what we want to do is we want to come up with like what the name of this node is. And so there is a template for that as well to make it a little bit easier. If you're not feeling super creative, like for me, I don't really know what this commerce place is necessarily. It's, dozens of people go there. Um, hmm. I could maybe do a theme, might make some sense. Or let's do the name, and maybe the name will give us an idea as to what maybe this commerce thing sells. All right, so we'll figure out from our template what the position of this name is. So this is 57. We are dealing with So this location has it is by a descriptor and then focus. So let's just roll twice. Descriptor, it's the first one. 91. And the second one is 11. So 91 on descriptor, so strange. And then on focus, it is 11. Strange blockade. All right, the store's called Strange Blockade, or the Commerce Place. Strange Blockade. Hmm. So it wouldn't be an underground place because that would be in the darknet. So this is a core one. This is one somebody can pretty much just hang out at. Doesn't sound like a bank though. Kind of commerce thing would this be? Strange Blockade. I'm finding dozen people there. I kind of think maybe this is kind of like where maybe bookies go, or maybe like a loan shark. Yeah, maybe a loan shark. The Strange Blockade is maybe like this little node kind of thing where people like can get like e-commerce type stuff. You can get like digital currency and trade it out like under the table, kind of like cash goods. You want to, you could use it for shady stuff, but you could also just use it because you just need a loan and there's high interest rates and whatnot. Yeah, it's not super underground, so it wouldn't be like a really weird e-currency, but yeah, I think it's like a loan shark. Um, and that's in the core network that we know for some reason. I don't know why yet, but we do. All right, so that's interesting. Okay, so that's one node. Let's see what the next ones are like. All right, so that's one. Let's do another one. Do as many of these as we want. I don't think I'll do a ton of these. I think I already know what I want my initial quest to kind of like entail. All right, so let's see what this segment is. So we'll roll for segment. 78 is, so we know of one in the government segment. Cool. And then we'll roll again. 29. Government, that would be military. Oh, a military segment. Interesting. I think for this, maybe we'll roll on theme. I think that might make a little more sense. Um, well, maybe we'll see what the theme comes up with, and we'll see if it's something that we, actually understand, if it actually works. All right, let me find my theme chart. All right, 17 on the theme would be a cure. Cure. Cure what? Maybe roll on focus to see what we're trying to cure here. Maybe 38. Cure gas. Cure gas. Like maybe this military group deals with infrastructure, and like maybe fossil fuels is something that they're trying to. I think, yeah, maybe they're like a military research and they're looking for alternative fuels, is what this group is. There's a node. So this isn't even a faction. This is just there's a server out there in the military that I know about that's working on this alternate fuel. I don't know why I care about that yet. That's another node that I am aware of. That's kind of top of mind. Hmm. Okay. And so I'm thinking right off the bat, and I want to do something that's kind of an easy first run. Let me clear this list. So I think for my starting scene, I got to kind of think about that. I don't think I want to do another node just yet. I can always roll those up, like I don't know, as I need them. So I don't really need them in the beginning. They're kind of just there to kind of establish a bit of like what you might be into right now. And I could roll another one up, but I think I'm going to hold off. So what I need is my inciting incident, and I want it to be on the spies, and I don't know the name of these spies. I just know they exist. Something has told me about them, and so I want it's part of my calling. Um, Now, one of the things you can do is you can, for your inciting incidents, you can have incoming message, and for that you roll on your action and theme. to kind of figure out like what this is. So I think I'll do that. I think it will probably involve these spies in some way. So let's just roll to see what the action and theme of this text message that I get in. This comes across my visor. And when I'm reading it, let's see what it looks like. It would be, let's see, action on a 43 is explore. Okay. So I need to explore 80. 80, 80, 80, 80. Oh, wait, put this on theme. Theme. Solution. Explore solution. Okay, well, that's not super helpful. Um, I mean, again, I guess it goes with what I was planning on doing. So I do think that, we need to figure out what this spy group, who they are, maybe who they work for, things of that nature. I think with this, we have a lead that the recently were interested in this military node where they're researching alternative fuel. We don't know why. We don't know what they're doing because we don't know who they're working with yet. Um, but we do want to find out why they're doing it. We don't think it's for anything good. Um, and so we're going to go on this lead, and I do want to find out like who sent me this message. So I am going to bring up the Fey Runners handle table and figure out like what was the name of this. I think it came from a friend. Maybe somebody that on occasion, like maybe on our message boards, we just kind of like chat with, and we know them, from something of that nature. So let's see what their name is. I'll click this out. All right, so looks like I lost part of my recording, so I'm gonna have to do this part again. But what we're left at is I need to figure out what the handle is of this friend who sent me the message, and I think I'll roll a few tables to determine the types of, you know, their personality, just so I kind of know what kind of friend this is. And then I also remember there's a couple things I forgot to do when I built my character, so I'll do those too. So first off, let's go ahead and roll to see what this person's name is. So we'll use the Fey Runner handles name. So the first thing we get is a 93, and a 93 is Damien. All right, Damien. Do we need to run another handle for that? No, I don't think so. I think we'll just go with Damien. So Damien, this is the person who sent me the message. And then let's roll on their initial disposition, kind of figure out what their general personality is. This is the standard uh, disposition table that we would use in typical IronSworn or Starforge. So 66. This person, oh, they're desperate. So, okay, so I think that, it changes the tone of this message. So this person, Damien, they send us this message about, getting into this base to figure out this military research base for alternative fuel. So they feel there's probably a time limit on it. They're desperate for us to get in there. So I think what I'll do when we do our session one, I will probably set some kind of tension clock. And I'll think through like why they're desperate, like what they think is going to happen or something of that nature. But I think I want it to kind of revolve around a tension clock. Like we'll have a certain amount of time to get this completed. So, all right, cool. So Damien sent us a message, and then the things I forgot to do. You get 3 assets, and we picked our 2 paths. So we are a crypto gamer, but one thing I forgot to do is pick the third asset. And so I'm going to take an asset for my rig. The one I'm going to take, and there's a bunch, I'm not going to read them off, but the one I'm going to take is the high-end GPU. And that gives me the ability to um, take an extra reroll if I'm decrypting things. So it's useful for cryptography type people, and it has some couple other benefits too if you upgrade it. But that'll be the initial one. And so I think it makes sense that we have this GPU, and so that Ghost Panic here can do his crypto stuff a lot better. And then was there anything else? Oh, I do think so. It takes care of the third asset. I think I want to roll to see what unique avatar characteristic my character has. I could just think of something for them, but I think it would be more fun to just roll something. So there's an Oracle table for trademark avatar characteristics that you can roll one or two times on. And so I'm going to roll one of those. So let's see here. I'm going to play this list out. Let's roll on the Oracle. No, 38, 38. So 38 would give us fluid or liquid chrome form. I mean, a ghost. Okay, so ghost panic. So what is this person's name? So I think what I'll do, I don't think it'll be like a fluid, like a liquid, say, but I do think it can make some sense that they're more ephemeral. You know, they take the ghost name, ghost handle literally with the way they show up. So I think it'd be cool if they had kind of a thinking of light blue kind of outline to them, like they're semi-transparent and they have this like glow. They have other, you can pick up maybe some colors from it, but it's typically just variations of blue, and that's usually how they show up in these different environments. I think that'll be cool. That's what they look like. The other thing, I think I need to figure out what the AI, because there was something with this where he has his own personal AI, I believe. Or no, everybody does. I think everybody has their own AI assistant. That was part of our truce. And since everybody's has a unique assistant, it would be good if they had their own personality as well. So let me think here. Let's figure out what would be, which table will I use? I think I'll use character details. I could have actually used this one for the other person too. The initial disposition character details might have been a little more useful, but that's okay. Um, we'll leave them as desperate. We'll use character details Oracle for our personal AI assistant. We will ask questions too here and there, maybe if we need to. But it was a basic assistant, if I remember right from the truce. But it might be kind of fun to give it a personality. So let's roll on that. Look at this. Another one. 48. So 48 is incompetent. All right. So the personal assistant that at least my personal character has is incompetent. It probably cannot give very good advice. Um, I think I'll probably end up using it as a kind of I think I would use it for when I get failed rolls or maybe uh, weak hits. You know, one of the reasons for the weak hit maybe due to bad advice from my AI, my incompetent AI. I probably need a name for it. I don't think I'll roll for that name. I'm just gonna think about that name and maybe just whenever I decide to use it, I will give it a name. And it'll probably be a slang name for him. I think he would have renamed the AI, deal with his frustrations for how it tends to give him only bad advice. And I think with that, we are finally done. We've done our session 0 actual play, which is great. Thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it. I mean, you made it this far. Session 0 in an IronSworn game basically is a game of itself, so it takes a while. You're kind of playing through and figuring out what your world's going to look like. And then when we do the session 1 actual play, we're going to see Ghost Panic with some kind of tension clock try and break into this military facility to kind of see what's going on there. I might think about it a little bit more, maybe roll something in the beginning, kind of get like a little more detail of what we're really trying to go after here. But that should be a fun, exciting thing. I'll try and keep that one a little bit smaller, but that will give you an example of how the gameplay itself works out in Fey Runners. If you're interested in Fey Runners, you want to support me, I would go to the Itch.io page. That's where I'll post development updates, things of that nature go there. There's also a backer kit where I'm also kind of just gathering interest. And so if you're interested in this game at all, go ahead and follow on backer kit. That gives me an indicator as to how much effort to put onto things. If do I want to make physical cards for things and things of that nature. So if people are very interested in this, I will add more content and keep working with it. Again, thank everybody for listening. I really do appreciate it.